For 35 years, you have fed the hungry at our daily bread, answering that so often uttered prayer of your children, as you taught us, give us this day our daily bread. And while 700 and 800 are fed daily at our daily bread, while meals have been served lovingly without interruption over these 35 years, no matter what the weather, we long for that day when men and women and children as well will not have to line up to be fed this way. We pray that you hasten that day.
Almost 13,000 days ago, and more than 17 million meals ago, Sister Josanna Abramitis opened the door of a little storefront soup kitchen on Franklin Street. It was our daily bread. It would change her life dramatically, and it would change the lives of thousands of other people, both the people who were served, as well as the people who did the serving, both the volunteers and staff.
So you never know when you're going to have an epiphany. And it was in 2010 when I was walking along Madison Street in the shadow of Baltimore's jail. I wasn't at Hopkins yet. I was still teaching at Harvard. But I'd come to Baltimore for the summer to study a cohort, to study the sort of the outcomes of a cohort of young people who had been born in Baltimore public housing. In any case, I was back to see how they had turned out as adults after 17 to 19 years of following them and their families. And so this is what took me to Madison Street on a summer morning, and my assignment was to interview a young woman named Ashley. I was absolutely stunned to learn that there was no income from work coming into that household, no income from welfare, and not even any income at that time from food stamps. And it occurred to me that maybe right under our noses, without anybody noticing, a new kind of poverty had risen in the United States, a poverty so deep we hadn't even thought to look for it because we assumed it didn't exist. Now, I went on my way, finished my study of the transition to adulthood, kind of forgot about Ashley, and then on a Monday morning in Cambridge, who should show up at my door but Luke Schaefer, data nerd. Luke was a visiting professor from Michigan. I had sponsored him. I knew very little about Luke, but as I was thinking, what should I say, to this visiting professor, I remembered that he was an expert on the one data source that the Census Bureau collects that could tell us better than any other whether what I'd observed with Ashley was just a blip, a one-off, or a trend. And I think we were both stunned by what he came back with after about a week's work, on his algorithms and other things that quantitative data nerds do. What we saw was between 1996, when welfare was reformed, and 2011, a rise in $2 a day poverty among families with children from about 600,000 to 1.5 million households with 3 million children. And I turned to her and I said, Tabitha, what does it feel like to be that hungry? And she said, it feels like you want to be dead because it's peaceful being dead. I've never heard anyone say that before.
I came to Our Daily Bread, like I said, from prison, and they gave me an opportunity to change my life. I think it was the fact that they cared enough about me to help me without asking anything in return. So it gave me the mindset to want to change my life. I think it's important because the most dangerous person in the world is a person with no hope. Since I came through the program, I came from homelessness to owning my own home.
The evils of poverty, racism, militarism, and violence exists because we tolerate them. For we are church. And as church, we would have to give up being comfortable. We would have to be up being cautious and safe in exchange for being courageous and prophetic. We would have to step out of the politically correct middle ground and stand on the gospel mandate that Jesus lived and died for. We would have to stop dabbling in projects and be persistent every single day of the year in advocating for justice. Injustice can be rooted out by strong, persistent, intentional, and determined action. That action must be rooted in the gospel imperative. It must be rooted in the social teachings of our church. And it must be rooted in an African proverb that says, I am because you are. You are because I am. Therefore, we are.